friends. Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing, chilled out, relaxed, maybe you took a bath bomb bath. Like, I don't even know what you're doing on this Saturday, but I hope it's really relaxing and fun. Today's video is gonna be a really just chilled out, it's gonna be a really relaxed knitting video. You guys really like these knitting videos, and I think it's so funny because I kind of did this as like a little joke because I was doing a tag and I mentioned that I loved knitting and would love to make knitting videos, and then you guys were like, do it sis, we dare you. And then I did, and then everyone loved them. So today we're doing another knitting video. This one's a little bit different. Normally I do story times when I do these knitting videos, and we have the blanket. She's back. I know you guys have missed her since Glomus has ended. She's also missed being on the channel, so she's back. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. So normally when I do these, I tell stories. I've told a few of stories on my channel doing this style of video where I'm just knitting and talking. Today's video is a little different. This is gonna be rough for me. I don't do this. So as you guys know, most of you, if you don't know, welcome to my channel. I'm a social work major. So I go to school every day and we talk about, you know, mental health is a big thing we talk about. Talk about all that stuff. And so I don't typically talk about it anywhere else other than school. But a lot of you guys have privately DM'd me, and I am worried that by not being honest, I'm giving off the wrong impression. I don't know if that makes sense, but I almost worry that I never want to perpetuate something about myself that's not true. While what you see on camera is not the most me ever, like I swear a lot more in real life, and I'm a little bit, you know, I have some secrets I don't put on the internet because I want to get a job. But one of the things that I've never really talked about, I've definitely touched on it, but I've never like actually in depth spoken about it, is my mental health situation. And I kind of have a weird one, I feel. It's not really weird. I'm sure a lot of people struggle with what I struggle with, but it's definitely something that I don't talk about to anyone or like let anybody in on the internet. I don't like mental health videos that make it sound like you're trying to like make people feel bad for you. I don't want anyone to feel bad for me. I'm doing fine in my life right now, and I more want to talk about this because I know every time somebody talks about their mental health, it breaks down a stigma that other people feel about their mental health. And I also know that I want to make sure people are aware. Just because I sit here on camera and I smile and I talk about makeup and I talk about drama doesn't mean that I don't also have my own struggles that I don't talk about. So I've been getting a lot of DMs. Not a lot, but like a few. I got a few DMs that I was kind of like, I should talk about this. People being like, you know, you just inspire me because you're so strong and you're so brave and, you know, all of this stuff. And I admire those people for opening up to me and talking to me about their struggles with mental health and telling me how I've helped them, and that's like the most rewarding thing on the planet. And I think I could help even more if I'm actually honest about what I go through on a day-to-day basis with my mental health. So we're just gonna get started. I guess it's kind of a story because it's my mental health like journey-esque thing, but it's also scary. It's scary talking about your mental health on the internet. I don't know why. It just is. I know it's like important to break down the stigma and normalize everything, but it's not normalized yet, I don't think. I think it's becoming more normalized, but it's not yet. And so to talk about it in a vulnerable way is kind of scary. And so I am a little nervous for this video. Let me drink some tea. I'm also not going to be delving into too many like deep things. I don't want to have to put a trigger warning and make it so people can't watch this. So I'm not really going to delve into the super details of some things, but just know that if you're very sensitive to mental health talk, maybe skip this one, but I'm not going to really delve too deep into anything. So there's not going to be talk of like self-harm or anything like that. My mental health was pretty okay most of my life, actually. I struggled when I was in middle school, but I think I actually I talked about it in my first knitting story time. I was actually diagnosed with post-concussion syndrome, and that was the cause of a lot of my mental health struggles in middle school. It wasn't necessarily an actual, I mean, post-concussion syndrome is an actual mental illness, I guess, but it's not really a mental illness. It's just like an illness that can cause psychological issues. So I definitely struggled with that, and I, you know, dealt with all of that when I was growing up. I was like 13 when all of that happened, and I went through a lot with that, and I kind of came out on the other end from that, and I don't really think about that aspect of my life a lot, not because I blocked it out, but it's just like, you don't really think about middle school that much, you know what I mean? Like, that's not a super relevant part in my life. When my mental health really started affecting me was when I got older, actually. So just to give you guys a brief runaround, mental health problems severely run in my family. My mom's side of the family has a lot of like bipolar disorder. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of like chemical depression. There's a lot of that in my mom's side of the family. And unfortunately, like my sisters and I, we all struggle with stuff. My mom struggles with stuff, like we all do. So my stuff is all very like chemical, which sucks. But I think also a big part of mine was circumstantial. It's kind of weird. So I feel like I'm talking in circles because I don't want to tell what happens. Okay, when I was 20, right when I got back from Nepal, if you missed that story time, I'll link it in the cards and you can go watch it. But I did a knitting story time all about my time in Nepal. It was fantastic. I got home from Nepal, and about 3 months after I got home, there was a huge earthquake. And huge earthquake that basically devastated the entire country of Nepal. It was really bad. It was really bad. It killed like thousands and thousands of people, and, you know, people I knew and people I had no idea what happened to them, people I'd met that I had no way of knowing what happened to them. It was just awful. And I found out about that while I was, so again, there's a lot of like layers to this whole story, but I went to college when I was 18. A lot of bad stuff happened while I was at college. I dealt with a lot of stuff, and I left after my first year of college there. But when I found out about the earthquake, I was actually up at this old college visiting some friends I had made my freshman year, because I made 2 friends that I was super, super close with. So I would go up to the old college and I would visit them. So I was at this college where all of these bad things had happened, and I was super traumatized just even being there. Realistically, I should never have been going back up there, but that's another story of not taking care of myself, and that'll be in this story. And I was driving, I was like about to drive home after this weekend of being up with my friends, and my dad texted me and was like, big earthquake in Nepal, like 20 people are dead. And I was like, wow, that's terrifying. But you hear that and you're like, oh, that's, you know, an earthquake, whatever. How bad can an earthquake be? And then it came out that it was getting like worse and worse and worse and worse. And the people that I was friends with on Facebook, who I was in Nepal with, were posting pictures of like temples that I had just been at, destroyed. It was just a lot. It was really devastating. And so I was driving home, and the college I went to was about 3 hours from my house. I was living at my parents' house at the time, and I was driving home, and the drive home took me, I think, 6.5 hours. It was normally 3 hours. It took 6. I doubled because I had my first panic attack. It was really horrifying and awful and traumatizing. And I almost went to the hospital because I actually thought I didn't know. I'd never experienced a true panic attack like this before, where like you truly feel like you're dying. Like you feel like you're sick to your stomach, and your like heart is pounding and your hands are shaking. And I literally pulled off, I was on this like highway thing, and I pulled off one of the exits, and I was sitting there and I was Googling like the nearest hospital, and I called my mom and I was like, I have to go to the hospital. I was like, I'm dying, like something is wrong with me. And she was like, you're not, you're just having a panic attack. She was like, you just found out about this Nepal thing, like obviously you're just having a panic attack. And I was like, no, because I'd had panic attacks where I felt like fear before. Like I'd had panic attacks where I felt overwhelmed and I would start hyperventilating a little bit, and I would start like getting really anxious, but I'd never had a panic attack like this ever. I felt like I wasn't real. Like that's the best way I can describe it. I really felt like I was not a real human being. Like I felt like I was like out of my body. It was the scariest thing I've ever experienced, and having to drive at a fast speed while feeling like I'm dying was awful. I had to pull over at every single exit. I was on the phone with my mom the whole 6.5 hours. I was just crying, freaking out. She would try to distract me, and then suddenly I'd feel like my chest would drop and I couldn't breathe. It was terrible. And that was my first panic attack. And I kind of felt like it was a one-off. Like I was just like, oh, this is just kind of a one-off thing, you know. I just heard some bad news and like whatever. But that night that panic attack happened turned into about a 10-month 10 months of just hell, to be perfectly honest. As things got worse, at this time I was working at a daycare. I had to quit my job at the daycare because every time I went in, I couldn't function. Like I literally I know it sounds so crazy because I feel like people who haven't experienced it sound like I was just like, oh, get over it. But it was constant, like paralyzing fear that I was about to die at any second. Which obviously now looking back, it's like, okay, obviously you just had this really traumatic thing where thousands of people died instantly. Obviously you're just paranoid about that because that just happened to you. But at the time I was like, why is this happening to me? And I couldn't drive. I would go to my friend's house and my friends were amazing through this time, but they just didn't know how to help me because, you know, how do you help somebody who, I would go to their house and I would like put on music on my phone and they had this pool table and it was the basement and I would lay under the pool table and I would just like cry and I would just cry and cry and cry and I'd be shaking and crying and my friends would be like, are you okay? And I'd be like, yes, I just can't drive home. I have to sleep here because I can't drive home. And they'd be like, okay. So I'd sleep there and then I'd wake up the next morning and I'd still feel absolutely terrible. And then at night, going to sleep was like impossible. Like I didn't sleep. I wasn't sleeping because every time I went to go to sleep, I would have a jolt. Like I would get this like shock through my whole body and it would be like alert, like you're not okay, you're not okay. I was fine. My body was just panicking every time I felt relaxed, which was awful because I've realized since then that there are some major triggers that make my anxiety worse and not sleeping is a big one. Not getting enough sleep is a huge trigger for me to have anxiety. I know that now. I didn't know that then. So I mean, that was all happening. Couldn't sleep. And it got to the point where I physically couldn't drive my own car. My friends had to drive me places because I couldn't drive. I lived about 12 minutes from my friends' houses and it was a struggle to drive home. I would have to call people to talk to me to try and distract myself from the fact that I felt like I was constantly dying. It was quite literally the most, like, it was debilitating. Like I could not function. It was the craziest thing. I went from being like this person who was like paragliding in Nepal and like jumping around my friends' houses and being crazy to like, if you touched me the wrong way, I thought you caused me to have like a stroke. Like it was so bad. And the problem was too, it was health anxiety. So it was so irrational. Like it was like, oh, I have a sinus headache, I must be dying of a brain tumor. Like, oh, I coughed, I must have lung cancer. Like, oh, I did this, I must have, and it was just like the most debilitating anxiety I've ever had in my life. And I'm so, first of all, before I go any further with the story, it was awful. It was really scary. It was really sad. It is a time in my life that I look back on and I'm so sad that so much of my time was just awful. Especially because I was like 20. Like I just turned 20. I should have been having like so much fun and I couldn't because I just had this debilitating anxiety. I want to preface this all by saying that I am really fortunate to, number one, have been in because a lot of people are not able to just quit their jobs to like focus on their mental health, or like a lot of people are not able to do what I was able to do. So I want to clarify that I'm very well aware that I was so incredibly blessed to have a family that supported me and helped me and took my mental health seriously and put it first and allowed me to live with them and not have to pay rent and helped me pay for things and all of that. Super blessed to have that, and I don't take that for granted in the slightest. And I know that's not the reality for everyone. So I want to make it very clear that I'm like aware of that, and I know, and I'm thankful that my family, because we all struggle with mental health, like we all take it really seriously. So they took it seriously. At the time that this was all happening, it was, oh my God, just thinking about it, it was so bad. I'm just remembering things while I'm talking about this and it was just like absolutely awful. During this whole time, my mindset was very much like, okay, you just have to beat this anxiety. Like you just have to beat it. Like if you can just overcome this and become the person you were before all of this, and you can just like, it was almost like I was thinking about like a boxing match. And like, if I could just knock it out enough rounds, it would just go away and I wouldn't have to deal with it. So I wasn't actively doing anything to help myself. I wasn't seeing a counselor. I wasn't taking any medicines for it. I wasn't doing anything at all. And I went to my primary care doctor finally, and I told her what was going on. And I was like, I constantly think I'm going to die. I constantly think I am dying. I constantly feel this like just fear of impending doom. Like it was awful. And she was basically like, you should start taking medicine. And I was kind of like, do you ever get anxiety talking about your anxiety? Because same. And I was terrified of taking any, I wouldn't even take Tylenol because I read about the Tylenol killer and how in the 70s, 3 people died from taking Tylenol. And so I wouldn't even take Tylenol because I was paranoid people were poisoning me. And this is how deranged it was. Like it was so irrational. Like to the point where I wouldn't want to go to like a fast food place because I was nervous they like poisoned my French fries. Like it was ridiculous, but it was real. It was what I was thinking. Like it's like it's awful, but it's what it was. And my doctor was like, you have to be on medicine. I was like, I don't want to be put on medicine. I want to do it the natural way. Which was like, it was like smelling stuff, which no tea, no shade, like aromatherapy stuff definitely works for some people. Mine was way too severe for it to work for me. It just didn't work. I would try the like oils. It just didn't work. So I tried that, then I went back in. She's like, how did that go? I was like, it didn't work. She was like, okay, why don't you try some medicine? So I tried a couple different medications, and what ended up happening was the 3 that I tried 3. Because finding medication for mental health is like absolutely the crappiest thing on the planet. Like it sucks so bad. It's awful because there's so many weird side effects that mental health medication has, and finding the right one that actually is worth the crappy side effects that you have, it sucks. So the first one I took, it made my all of my arms, neck feel absolutely completely numb, like so numb. My arms were on fire, they were tingling, they were numb, made my whole body feel like it was on fire. The first one I took, absolutely hated it. It was awful. Then she was like, okay, we obviously can't have that happening. She was like, because that makes your anxiety worse. The second one made me like sleep all day. I wasn't moving, I wasn't doing anything, and I was still anxious. I just was like, it was like a mask of anxiety, like it didn't really work. And then there were a couple other ones I tried that had some really bad side effects. Nothing was working. So I was like, I'm not doing medication. I'm gonna go to therapy. So I went to a therapist who is still to this day like one of the best people on the planet. She's fantastic. She was so good. She was fantastic. She was really patient with me because I was annoying. I was like, but I'm dying. And also I would go in and I was there to like, you know, talk about my trauma. Because at this point I'd been diagnosed with PTSD, generalized anxiety, generalized depression. So my doctor I was there to like get treated for all that stuff, but most of the time I would just go in and talk about like boy problems I was having, and I'd be like, he doesn't love me, and she'd be like, shut up and talk about your anxiety, we can fix that. But she was great. She was super patient. I found a lot of success with her in the sense that I was able to deal with a lot of other things that had happened in my life, and not necessarily the anxiety, but I was dealing with like other traumas that I think were contributing to the anxiety, which I do think helped. However, it got to a point where I was so depressed, because of course you're depressed. You can't walk, you can't move without thinking you're gonna die. Like, of any reasonable person who suddenly can't live their life, I couldn't even go to like a dinner with my friends because I would just be checking my pulse and like panicking the whole time. Living was not fun. So of course I got severely depressed. So it got to a point where I was severely depressed and I wouldn't take any medicines because the medicines I'd been taking had such a bad side effect. So my therapist was basically like, you know, I think it might benefit you to go inpatient and get on the right medications, and then once you're on the right medications, obviously like leave. So it was a short stay inpatient, and this was when I think I just turned like, I was about to turn 21, and so I did. I feel like people are ashamed to say if they've done like inpatient stuff because it makes it seem really serious, but for me it was literally the best thing I ever have done for myself ever. So I'm not really ashamed to be like, I fixed myself and I fixed my life by doing this. I went in and they got me on the right medicine, most of which I'm still on today, one of which I'm not because it was basically a freaking horse tranquilizer, so I'm not on that one anymore. But I went in and I got on the right medicine. I was there for like 6 days, I think. They got me on the right dosages, talked to me about a bunch of stuff, and, you know, hooked me up with people, an outpatient that I could work with and stuff like that. And this is the part where I feel like sometimes people judge you. I feel like people judge other people for taking medications for mental health issues, specifically things like anxiety and depression, because I think there's a very large mindset about anxiety and depression that it can just be, you can just will yourself out of it. You can just it's so funny to me. It's like you can just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you can just go on about your day and like you're fine. You don't need all that stuff. And I can honestly sit here and tell you guys, like, you to me right now, that I would still be curled up under a pool table if I didn't start taking medication. My anxiety is incredibly severe and I'm not ashamed of that. It's what it is. I have severe generalized anxiety and I need to take medication for it. And I will not let anyone in the comments shame me for doing that. And if you take medication, you should never let anybody shame you for taking that. I don't care what they have to say about acupuncture. I don't care what they have to say about more whatever treatments. This works for me. This makes it so I can go to school and get a degree and film videos and have a boyfriend and live my life. So I'm fine with it. I feel really passionately about that because it pisses me off. If you don't want to take medicine and you're able to find a solution for you that works without taking medication, more power to you. I tried. Like, I'm so, thank you. Like, good for you that you're able to do that. That's difficult to find. It's difficult to find a remedy that is not medication that actually legitimately works for you. So I'm so happy for you if you were able to find a more natural way to fix your anxiety, depression, whatever you have. It was absolutely not an option for me. And for some people, it's absolutely not an option. And I just hate that we're not, as a society, way more understanding of that. That's my rant. So I got on the medication and I started feeling a lot better. Now, I don't want to paint the picture that today, like let's fast forward a few years. I don't want to paint the picture that my life is perfect today because it's absolutely not at all perfect. I still struggle a lot. I could probably cut together an entire like 45-minute video of clips of me while I'm filming, suddenly having to like stop and like have a panic attack like while I'm filming, and then I'll just resume and then I'll stop. There's some videos where, and this is the thing, is like I love filming and I love YouTube videos and stuff like this, but there's times where I'm just like, I hate it because I'm so, but I force myself to do it because that's something I've learned is when you can force yourself with anxiety, do it. Force yourself to do it. Sometimes you can't, but a lot of times you can, and you should try to push yourself a little bit, make yourself uncomfortable, and that's something I've learned that's helped me a lot. But I could compile like a 45-minute video of me just having panic attacks while I'm filming. Sometimes it'll literally be sentence to sentence. Like I just have to say a sentence, stop. Say a sentence, stop. My day-to-day anxiety is a lot better. Like during the day especially, I'm usually pretty good. There are definitely moments where I panic and moments where things are not good, but it's a lot more manageable now. I think the hardest part for me is that because my anxiety is very much health related, like I have really, my anxiety is a lot related, but it's a lot of like fear of impending doom, health related issues. Like whenever I go to, I want to describe it for you guys because I want to, like, if you feel this way too, like you're not alone in feeling this way. Like you're not, other people feel it too. Like every time I'm in a school, I get anxiety. Because of like school shootings that are happening in our country. Every time I'm in, I'll go into a bar and I'll have planned a route of how I would escape if something bad were about to happen. Or when we're falling asleep at night, I stay up till like 5 a.m. sometimes, because this is only sometimes, this isn't every night, but sometimes I'll stay up till like 6 a.m. because I think that's when a burglar wouldn't try to come in after 6 a.m. Like, why would they come in when everybody's waking up? Stuff like that can still happen and does happen. And that's the stuff that, like, I think when I was first, I'm done knitting. I can't knit anymore. I think when I was first starting this whole thing, it was, like I kind of said, it was like a boxing match where I was trying to just like knock it out enough times to win and then go back and be like a normal person again, not have anxiety, not feel depressed. That's the other thing too. Sorry, I'll finish the analogy in a second, but another thing too is like the depression aspect is huge. You know, I get, some days I just can't. And it sucks. I'm in one of those phases right now where I'm in a more depressive phase, and it's awful because I just don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to shower, you know, I don't want to, and I'm sad, and I don't even know why. I'm sad, but I am. I think right now I'm in it because my I do a lot better when I have like structure in my life. I think a lot of people who struggle with depression and anxiety do better with structure. So when I'm in school and I'm in classes and I'm on top of my filming and everything like that, I feel a lot better. I feel a lot more on top of things. I don't feel as depressed or anxious. I feel better in a schedule. So I've been on break. So I'm not doing well right now because I'm on a break and I don't have any structure right now. And it's kind of just like been a week of nothing, and that kind of has put me in a bit of a slump, I guess. And that's the worst too, because it's like, my friends will be like, do you want to go out? And I'll be like, no. And they'll be like, why? What's your reason? And I'm like, I don't have one. I just am sad. And they're like, why? And I'm like, I don't know why I'm sad. And that's the thing that sucks, is trying to explain it to the people around you, because everyone's like, well, why are you sad? Why are you crying? And I'm like, I don't know why I'm crying and why I'm sad. I have no idea. You know, I'll suddenly like shudder and my boyfriend will be like, what's wrong? And I'm like, oh, I just had an intrusive thought of something horrible happening. And it's just sad. Like I think I wanted to make this video as a point of like, I have learned a lot in the past 3 years about myself and about my anxiety and about my depression and about mental illness. I've learned a ton about all of that. And I've overcome so much. And from looking back to where I was 3 years ago, I've come so far in that I'm capable of literally living a life. Like that's such a huge drastic change from what I was 3 years ago, but I still have a very long way to go. And that's kind of what I wanted to say, was like, when I was first starting out, when all of this first started happening, I was really looking at it from the mindset of like, it's a boxing match. You just have to knock this out and then you can leave and then you can live your normal life. Like, it sucks and it's hard in the moment, but like, you just got to get it over with. And I've really learned that this is more like a marathon, and I have to pace myself, and I'm gonna have stretches where things are gonna feel terrible and I'm not gonna feel good and I'm gonna feel sad, and you know, I'm gonna have flare-ups of feeling awful, and that's all gonna happen. But I'm also gonna have days where I feel amazing and I'm, you know, running and I'm doing great, and I've never ran a marathon, so I don't really know how it feels, but I think I'm gonna have days of both. And I think people are too. If you're struggling with something like this, I think your natural reaction is to be like, well, especially when it happens to you later in life. Like, one of my sisters has dealt with mental illness issues her entire life, and so she's pretty well aware. But I think if this type of stuff pops up later in life, you're like, well, I just want, you know what it was like before. Like, I know what it was like to not constantly be anxious. I know what it was like to not just cry for no reason. So it's like, you look back at your old life and you're like, wow, why can't I just be that person again? Like, why can't I be the person who had not a care in the world, who literally did not care? Like, why can I not do that anymore? And I think a lot of it is just realizing, like, it's not that that part of you is over. It's just that some days she can't come out and play anymore. Like, you have to think of it as like, you're just gonna have to like go with the ebbs and, I've been saying ebbs and flows a lot on my channel, but some days there's gonna be positive days and some days there's gonna be negative days, and it's about having more positive days than negative days. Like, that's what I'm trying to do right now. If in a month I have more positive days than I do negative, that's a W. So I wanted to talk to you guys about this and just be open about this and tell you how I was feeling about this, because I feel like, I don't know, I thought it might help someone. I don't know who, but maybe someone will be helped by this. I know it was a little ranty and rambly, but it's just my story, I guess. My thing. I don't know, yeah. I hope this wasn't like depressing or upsetting to anyone. I definitely just wanted to be open and honest with you guys about the stuff that I struggle with, because I know I'm not the only one, and I know you guys probably struggle with similar stuff, and I want you to know it's okay that you do, and you're gonna be okay. You really are. Like, I promise, even if you're in the pits of it right now, like, I promise there's a light at the end, even if it seems really far away. I've seen it. I guarantee there's gonna be parts in my life where I dip back down and things get really bad again, and you know, you just gotta get back up. I really love you guys so much. I love each and every one of you so much, and if you are struggling, know that not only am I here for you, but I know a lot of other people in the comments who are incredibly kind, who are definitely also here for you. I love you guys so much. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, or just like, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're watching me, my merch, my social media, and I'm wearing nothing on my face because knitting means no makeup. yeah, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!